welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray, Alejandro Moreno and Stevie Nicol here in the studio. Lots to look forward to with the weekend ahead, and we will start with the Manchester derby. It's Manchester United hosting Manchester City at Old Trafford on Saturday morning. City currently chasing leaders Arsenal at the top of the table. Manchester United fighting to try and get into the top four, and now they have Michael Carrick back on the bench as interim manager. Let's welcome in Julian Laurent and Nader Manua to talk more about this. Before we say hello to them, though, we thought we'd bring you everybody's predictions.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I wonder if the guys are all agreeing on this one. It turns out they are, all except for Dan Thomas, who's gone for a 2-2 draw here.
Where is, I'm sorry, excuse me, where is Kay Murray?
I don't do predictions, LA.
How come? Is that on your contract?
I'm neutral.
What?
No prediction from me. I'll stay clear from this one.
I guess you're special, though.
Nader, I'll start with you then. No new manager bounce with Michael Carrick coming back for you.
Well, there could still be a new manager bounce, but I still think City are going to win this game. I think City's form has been, obviously they've drawn a couple of games, but I think it's 13 games unbeaten now, and I think that win against Newcastle midweek was a good sign for them, being able to rest a couple of the more senior players who could have a big impact in this match tomorrow. But I'll be honest with you, as a Man City supporter, I hate derby days so much. From having suffered through the 90s, spending 3 years not even having a derby game because City weren't in the Premier League, to now knowing that across these last 20 years or so, to a certain extent, it doesn't even matter whether City are higher up in the league than United, because these derby games bring out at times the best in United. But I think on this occasion, I'm leaning towards City, and that new manager bounce fully can start after this game.
What does Michael Carrick need to do with what he's got to try and get something here?
Well, I think he needs to follow the lead of recent managers and sit tight and don't give anything away. I mean, that I think is what Nader was worried about, because all the victories and results that United have had against City have been backs against the wall and try and catch them on the counter, get your nose ahead, and then hang on. Unfortunately, this new manager bounce with Carrick, all the talk from Michael Carrick has been about playing football and being attractive and all of these things. And if he comes into this game filling the heads of these United players with that thought about being positive, going forward, making runs, be brave, be courageous, all of those great things that sound good in the dressing room before the game, if they actually go about it that way, then I think they'll comfortably be beaten. And that's what I see. It reminds me of Chelsea-Arsenal during the week, where new manager, Rosinha, talking about playing football, and Chelsea went out and played the football, but unfortunately they left holes. And although it was 3-2, they were thoroughly beaten, and it should have been more. So I can see a similar thing happening with this Man United team, going out, trying to play football, trying to kind of go toe-to-toe, but I think that's a bad idea.
Would it be a bad idea for you, LA?
It would be an awful idea. Awful idea. Manchester United in their best days right now. Take the best of Manchester United. They're still not ready to be going toe-to-toe against the best teams in the Premier League, and we still consider Manchester City one of the best teams in the Premier League. And so, for all the flaws that you may think Manchester City has, they are better at and I'm going to use Stevie's expression, at playing football than Manchester United are. Right now, Manchester United are not ready to do that just yet. So the key to success, if there is going to be success, is defend well, deny spaces, frustrate Manchester City, force Manchester City into predictable passing patterns, put them into areas in which you can pressure the ball together, and then from there create a turnover and get out in transition against Manchester City, because Manchester City struggles in transition defensively. That's the way that I would set up. If Michael Carrick and Manchester United think that they're going to go, again, quote, toe-to-toe, that's not the way they get a result. I just don't see it happening, because they just don't have the tools to do that.
Meanwhile, Jules, Mbeumo and Diallo are back from the Africa Cup of Nations, looking around going, oh, he's gone, has he? Is that a boost for the club that these guys are back?
Yeah, it's good for them to be back, obviously, and not involved either in the AFCON final or the little final in AFCON. It's a different manager, you're right. So they left with Amorim, they come back, it's Carrick. It's a different system as well, which we haven't really spoken about. But we expect the back four. We expect Bruno Fernandes to play again in his favourite and best position as a number 10. I'm not sure where that leaves Cunha and Ahmad and Bomo and all of that, because obviously they signed those players for Amorim in the system that he was playing at. Amorim spent a lot of time with Ahmad, kind of transforming him into a very attacking wing back, if you want. Now, if you play in a more traditional, let's say 4-2-3-1, it'd be very interesting to see who Carrick picks to be the two wide players. We expect Šeško to be the number 9, but that means Cunha a little bit out of position, Mount could be out of position, and Bomo probably different to what he played at Brentford, but maybe on that right-hand side, it's actually not too bad. I guess you could put Diallo on the other side, but again, you got rid of wingers because you were playing in the Amorim system, and now you play in a different system where actually you could do with wide players. So, be very interesting in terms of team selection as well, what Carrick does.
Yeah, let me know that recent meetings between the two haven't fared so badly for Manchester United. We know with Erling Haaland, his scoring's been a bit of a concern in just the recent games. Talk about him not scoring from open play since before Christmas. Are these the concerns that you have, Nedum?
No, not really. I think Erling Haaland not scoring for a few games, that at some point will deal with itself. Like, we'll probably get to the end of the season and see he's scored 30 goals in the Premier League again. I don't doubt that at all. I think some of those draws in recent times, they have been disappointing. I think for me, there have been some of those moments in those games where they've not really taken their chances, and as a consequence, they've been punished, because if your game's not out of sight, then the other team will always have belief that they can do something. But I don't think this derby game itself is going to be similar to those matches of football. And I think Haaland himself, if we're going to talk about his goal scoring, he's got a pretty good goal scoring record against United. Seen him scoring hat-tricks, and for example, I think in his first ever one. So I don't doubt that City can win it. But again, it's like, the new manager bounce, I don't necessarily always believe in that. But for Michael Carrick, what a way it could potentially be to get things going, for the 5 months he's going to be in charge. First game against Manchester City, it's going to be at Old Trafford, 70,000 people screaming for this victory, because I think even to look at the table, this is how much things have changed. When last time there was a derby, United were 2 points ahead of City, and now you fast forward to this point and they're 11 points behind. They've had a very, very tough spell in that time. But this could be a great way for them to, get towards that final end of the season, because we know there's no FA Cup, no Carabao Cup, no European football. So these fixtures are right here.
He's a worried man, isn't he?
Yes,
he's a worried man.
Yes, he is. But may I admit something here? A few weeks ago, before the Semenyo transaction, if you will, where he ends up at Manchester City, we had a conversation about Manchester United and Manchester City as to where he should go. And I was sitting here and said, well, he's probably not going to play as a center forward in Manchester City, so maybe he should go to Manchester United. And Stevie, you said, and at that point, we're very clear that if it were you, you would go to Manchester City. I was kind of like, I don't know, with that sort of tone, dismissive as I was. Well, I was wrong. You were right. I was wrong. It's an actual threat on both sides. Winger-type players that can beat defenders from 1v1 situations, that don't necessarily have to cut the ball back so that they can recreate and recycle possession of the ball. That, I think, benefits Erling Haaland. So I go back to the conversation about Erling Haaland. If you have guys that are not predictable in the attack because they're willing and capable of taking players from 1v1 situations, it makes his job easier, because he can now find the space inside the 18-yard box, knowing that somebody is about to get to the end line and cross the ball and put it into a dangerous area. Semenyo has provided that for this team. Stevie, you were right.
Thank you.
So obviously that's going to make Nedum feel a little bit better. I'm about to make him feel a bit worse in a minute.
Well,
Go ahead, Stevie.
you were talking about the new manager bounce, but when somebody like Semenyo comes in, you get the new player bounce in the side that they join. They join because everybody's trying to show him as well what they're all about. And he comes in like a breath of fresh air, is still scoring goals, he's got assists, and so that gives, it's just like a new player bounce. And so it's given City just a lift. And the fact that Gay's going to be coming in as well. I mean, Manchester City are pretty much on a high right now.
Yeah, let's get to Mark Gahey if we can with you, Jules. Where are we with that?
Yeah, we're finalising the deal. Now he won't play this weekend with Crystal Palace. He won't play again the derby obviously tomorrow, but he could well be involved in the next game. We said, I think since all the injuries, the Gvardiol and the Ruben Dias injury, that they were going to go and sign a centre back, one, maybe even two defenders, maybe one centre back and one a bit more versatile that can play in the full-back position, maybe a centre back position. Well, the first one of that will be Marc Guéhi around the £20 million mark. There's still a few bonuses, I think, to still sort out between the two clubs, which, as we said, on the face of it, you say this is a bargain for a player like him. Considering he only has 6 months left on his current contract, you still pay for somebody who you could get for free in 6 months' time. But hey, you need him now. Palace needs the money, so it makes sense. I think it makes sense from a Manchester City point of view. From a Guéhi point of view, it makes sense. Yeah, of course, he's going to play now. Ruben Dias is going to come probably in a month or so. Gvardiol not before next season. So you think him and John Stones, we don't know. Nobody knows, really. So him and Dias will be the partnership at centre-back for between next month and the end of the season, probably if there's no injuries, which is a very solid pair of centre-backs. And then for next season, when Gvardiol is back, then there will be 3 or 4 for 2 positions. But that's the case in every big club.
They absolutely do need him now, don't they, Nedum? Are you okay with how it's all going to play out?
Yeah, I think so. I think Khrushchev's done well, Max Delaney's done well, but I think to be able to bring in like a full international at this point in the season, I think is great. Yes, the premium is there and paying £20 million for him, but maybe he would have come in the summer, but the necessity is there now. And I think if they want to be successful between now and the end of the season, then some of the gambles that maybe we've seen in recent sort of weeks, for as well as they've done, like you can't really afford to have that, say when push comes to shove, when you're getting towards March and April time. I think for them to be able to bring in a player like that, somebody that's in their mid-20s, because one thing about City's sort of defenders, some of them, like looking at John Stones, looking at Nathan Ake and the like, they are getting a little bit older than, say, you would hope for to be building a team for the future. But in Guéhi, someone who's in his mid-20s, I think it's a great signing, not just for now, but for the future of City as well.
Are you gutted that Liverpool are going to miss out on him, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Gutted that he never went in the summer. Gutted that we're not going to get him now, and won't get him in the next window either. So, yeah, Manchester City with these 2 signings have basically said that, the one thing I wondered was, are they going to accept that maybe they're not going to win the Premier League this year and they're going to retool again in the summer? And I wasn't quite sure where they stood. Well, they've just answered the question. When you sign Semenyo and you sign Gay at the back, they're trying to win the Premier League this year, 100%. That's what those 2 signings means.
We should talk about Oliver Glasner, Jules, mentioning that he'll be on his way out in the summer and saying that he wants a new challenge. Could that new challenge be the role as Manchester United manager?
I think he will be on the short list and he will surely be interested in a club like that. Whether they will choose him, that's another matter and another debate. He was out of contract, he's out of contract in June. We knew that he had already rejected 2 offers from Crystal Palace to extend that contract, so it was pretty obvious he was not going to stay after this season. He actually told Steve Parish and the board at Palace back in October that he was never going to sign. I think it's good for them to still trying. Now there's no point trying because he's made it official that he was going to leave. I don't know exactly because I'm not too familiar with the Crystal Palace history from before the time I moved to England, but he has to be one of the greatest managers ever, really, when you think that he brought them the FA Cup. They are very much amongst the favourites to win the Conference League and bring a European trophy to Selhurst Park as well. So I think, as sad as it would be, I think, for the club and fans to lose somebody who's had such a positive impact on the football club, I think they will look at him as one of the greatest memories that he brought to the football club, and he really took this team and this club forwards. Now they can't really get wrong the next one after him because it won't be easy to follow Glasner. But for him, I think he showed enough there to be amongst the contenders for bigger club jobs.
Jules, why would Areola from Bournemouth not be on that list? If I'm Manchester United, and let's make it a clear race between the 2 of them. If it's Oliver Glasner or Areola from Bournemouth, surely you've got to take Areola. Why would they take Oliver Glasner? I don't get this Oliver Glasner thing.
No, you're right. I mean, there's a good debate. I know probably not for maybe tonight, but Glasner really did it at Palace and at Frankfurt. And I'm not saying they're 2 small clubs because they're not. But it's not United or Bayern Munich or Juventus or Liverpool or City and clubs like that. And I think there's a bit of a skepticism might be a little bit strong because at some point, you are allowed to try at a top club and you may well succeed. But I think there's a bit of that, okay, can he do it in that kind of pressurized environment with those kinds of dressing rooms and egos? It's not Mateta, it's Cunha, it's not Wharton, it's Bruno Fernandes, those kind of guys. And for Iraola, probably the conversation would be slightly similar because so far it's, the smaller clubs in Spain and then Bournemouth. But Iraola is younger. The only difference is Iraola is not out of contract, so you will have to pay a fee to get him out of Bournemouth, and that won't be cheap, obviously. But I agree with you. If I had to choose between the two, if I'm Ineos or Ratcliffe or Wilcox, whoever Barada are United, I'll go for Iraola every day. This Arsenal team has been built and has been kind of structured not to play with the traditional number 9, because otherwise, if Saka is used to having a traditional number 9 there, he crosses that ball first time every single time, even on his wrong foot, and Gyökeres scores that. Whereas the second cross should never come to Gyökeres because Sanchez doesn't make the mistake and he stops the ball and the ball. So that's not the right pass. The right pass is the first one that Saka doesn't make. This is a team that has been for so many years used to play with false number 9, with a Gabriel Jesus, with a Kai Havertz, with a Merino. And Gyökeres is very different. And that's why I still think that he's still adapting to this team and the team is still adapting to him. He should have done better so far this season. He should have scored more. He should do more during a game, not just scoring, but sometimes his runs, for me, are just not clear enough. There's a few things that he should improve on already. But I thought that this goal was typical of what's happening with Gyökeres at the moment. He will score goals. He will get to 15, I think, this season in all competition. But you could see for me that Saka should have crossed that ball, but he's just not in the mindset right now to play that way.
Before I'll go on.
All I would say is that apparently we're not cool enough to be part of the chat group between Jules and Nadim.
I do want to get.
We don't get the messages apparently.
And I want to know more about this chat group before I get the striker's opinion on this. Give us a bit more than Nadim about this conversation from your point of view.
Yeah, it's more so, as I've been watching him play throughout the season, it's fair to say that he is a good player. You could argue a very good player. But for the way that Arsenal play, at times, it doesn't seem like he suits them. There are so many games where at times he almost feels anonymous. And it's good that in some ways, yes, he can battle it out with the defenders and so on. But when he comes up against a bunch of defenders who've got the same sort of physicality as him, then it all of a sudden doesn't look the same, doesn't seem of a benefit to Arsenal. And maybe there's a certain amount of control that they lose in a game because, say, he's involved in that manner. And yes, he's a great finisher. And Jules makes a good point. If the service is first time, then great, he'll probably score more goals. But maybe that's not the strength or the tendency of those Arsenal players. So I try and think to myself sometimes, he's a good player for them to have. But I don't think if they win the league this season, it'll be because they signed this number 9, which so many people have been talking about for the last, say, couple of years. Because I think for me, the way that Arsenal are, their strength comes in the collective, not necessarily 10 people potentially trying to feed one. So yeah, I see his benefit, I see how good he is, but even to sum up that goal the other day, there's good fortune that leads to it. And in some ways, it felt weird seeing all the Arsenal players rally around him saying, oh look, well done Victor, well done, everybody celebrate Victor, he's finally scored. That doesn't really seem like the type of energy you'd have around a striker who's potentially going to propel you towards the league title.
Would you like to state your case from the Forwards Union here?
Well, I mean, it's in the same neighborhood of sometimes what we see from Manchester City and Erling Haaland, that it seems like he's just a passenger in the game when Manchester City has decided, as they do many a times and for long periods of time during a match in which it's just passing around the box, just passing, and they don't take advantage of what they have in front of them, which is, in the case of Erling Haaland, a world-class striker. Now, I don't think Gyökeres is at that level, but if indeed you're going to take advantage of a number 9, he needs, and this is not a mystery, he needs service. He needs service. And if you're a striker, you live and breathe and die on service. And I equate it as a source of life. If you're a striker and you're getting service, you're more likely to make the next run. And to make the next run after that, because you know in your heart, in your soul, you believe that that ball is coming. When that ball doesn't come and you've made one run, and you made a second run, and you made a third run, when there's the fourth run, you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know that it's coming. I don't know that I'm going to get the service. And it limits your game. And I think Gyökeres is a guy that is not going to create on his own. He needs service, and it affects every part of his game. And that's the part that he should address, that it shouldn't affect every part of his game. But his movement stops, his level of activity stops, and it's because he knows, as the guys have referenced, that the service is probably not coming.
Stevie, Kai Havertz is back. Has Gyökeres done enough to keep Havertz out?
You'd have to say right now no, because Arteta keeps picking him. You know, Arteta clearly thinks eventually he's going to come good and get the amount of goals that they brought him in for. But I think Ali's comparison with Haaland and Gyökeres tells you why Haaland is an elite striker, because he's worked it out. He's figured out whenever certain players have got the ball, whether he can make the run or not make the run, and he figures out that he's in the right place at the right time. Now, Gyökeres was in the right place at the right time for that goal we just showed. But the previous game, there was one ball that wasn't across the 6-yard line. Gyökeres wasn't there because he hasn't worked out yet who does what when and where should he actually be all the time. That's the difference between the elite striker and Haaland, who's figured it out, and Gyökeres, who hasn't figured it out.
It's for you that he has to back him after the coach himself took responsibility and blamed himself for those mistakes.
Yeah, I think so. But if we go back to last summer when they were trying hard to sign Mike Maignan from AC Milan, it's obviously obvious, but they clearly didn't believe in Sanchez. Otherwise, you don't go and spend some money on Mike Maignan at his age as well if you really believe in either Jorgensen or Sanchez. So the fact that they could not get Maignan, I don't know why there was no plan B there, because there are surely other goalkeepers that maybe not as good as Maignan, but still better than Sanchez, somebody in between. But clearly with Maignan or nothing, they went for nothing, and they stayed with Sanchez and Jorgensen. And now I think there was always a mistake in Sanchez. Even if I agree with Nedum, he was a little bit better so far this season. And that's why they wanted another goalkeeper like Maignan last summer. So I think in the summer, they're going to clearly going again. Maignan won't be available this time because he's about to extend his contract at AC Milan. So they will have to find somebody else. But if you are trying to sign one of the best goalkeepers in the world in the summer and you don't, that is clearly a really bad indication of how much you trust your current goalkeeper.
Talking about trust, when you're a defender in front of a goalkeeper who's made those mistakes, what does it do to your own confidence?
Oh, no. every time you look behind, you go, oh, jeez.
Wait a minute, but I could say the same thing that Robert Sanchez could be saying about the defenders ahead of him.
Yeah, but
turning the ball over, trying to play out of the back. I'm just saying.
Do you know what? I can't get over the fact that he's turned around and said, I'll take the blame for that, for the goal. I mean, what are you talking about? How can you take the blame? Your goalie's come flapping, and then he's actually just completely missed one. How do you take the blame? I mean...
I think he said he was asking him to do things that he doesn't normally do.
What? Save it? Catch it?
Catch the ball.
Catch the ball.
Yeah.
Catch the ball. I know you don't normally do this, but I want you to catch it today.
It's such a typical move for an incoming manager when things don't go your way to say, guys, it's not on you, it's on me. It's on me. You're trying to buy some sort of equity with the players, and the players know. You know who knows? Robert Sanchez knows that he has made a mistake. So all of this, it's more for press conference material than it is for what actually goes on inside the locker room.
Yeah, so that's one of the games coming up this weekend in the Premier League. There are plenty of them. We will, of course, be discussing them on ESPN FC. All gets underway with a big one, the Manchester derby between Manchester United and Man City. We'll see how Chelsea do fare, and if we see Robert Sanchez between the sticks against Brentford. And as the matchday rolls on, it is Nottingham Forest, as we've been discussing, against Arsenal. Nedum and Jules will be joining us on the latest edition of Extra Time to answer more of your questions. Check it out over on our YouTube channel. Potentially a tough weekend ahead for Alvaro Arbeloa. You've been writing about it and previewing this game, Real Madrid against Levante, Jules, on the website. It's not going to get worse for Real Madrid, is it?
Surely, it can't be. Albacete was the lowest of the low, really, and this game, they play Monaco then on Tuesday in the Champions League at the Bernabeu as well. So these are the games where, at least in terms of result, because performance, one, we don't know really what to expect from Arbeloa as a coach and how this team is going to play. Is he going back to kind of basics, Ancelotti, hey, do what you want and let's hope for the best kind of thing? or a bit more structured like Xabi Alonso, but that didn't work because the players didn't really want it to work. We're not really sure. Certainly we saw nothing against Albacete that could tell us that it's going to be one way or another. What we saw against Albacete was just nothing. Tactically, collectively, there was just nothing. They scored 2 goals, I know, but there was just nothing with the ball, really. So let's see. But even that, even against the Levante team, that, by the way, has changed manager, and since Luis Castro has come over towards the end of mid-December, they've actually unbeaten, and they just won against Sevilla and drew against Real Sociedad. So they're not in bad form compared to the form of Real Madrid with 2 defeats in a row. But surely they can't. The crisis has to stop right now, and already they're thinking about next season and players. We saw some of those rumors about them wanting to get Erling Haaland in the summer. Good luck with that. But the big thing for me as well for this Levante game is, what about Kylian? If Kylian is fit, and they want him to be fit, and they want him to play, and he doesn't really feel fit himself, and he doesn't want to play tomorrow, that could be something, because they've been so dependent on him, so extra reliant on him, that if he's not there, I'm not sure where they go, because he's the one that has won them game on his own pretty much. And without him, it's going to be more difficult. That's why they're pushing for him to play tomorrow. Even against Levante, that's how bad things are. And so far, he hasn't been too keen on playing tomorrow.
Look, while there has been a slight improvement from Levante as of late, this is still Levante going to Santiago Bernabeu. And as I've said many a times in situations like this, somebody has to pay for the broken plates. Los platos rotos. It's a very Spanish expression. And those feelings will grow one way or another depending on the sort of performance that they have on the field, regardless of what Arbeloa is doing on the sideline. On the field. The players. And they know this very well. I'm not telling them something that they do not know. If they want this stadium to get behind them, it has to be, and it's an early start, by the way, for Real Madrid, which is usually in this sort of games, daytime kickoff, they're usually slow to get going. They got to get going from the first minute, so that then the potential for boost just kind of disappears, even though it's still there, kind of disappears, and it allows guys like Vini, Mbappe, and whoever else is available to play, and that'll be the interesting thing, the team selection from Arbeloa, for them to actually get behind this team. They have to regain the trust, the confidence, the love, the passion of Santiago Bernabeu, and you only do that by whipping the backside of Levante. And even that may not be enough. So, again, you mentioned, is this going to be a public trial? Well, it may very well be, but if you wanted a victim, might as well pick Levante, who's down at the bottom of this league. So it's all on the Real Madrid players. I'm not looking at Arbeloa tomorrow. I'm looking at the players.
Okay, let's talk about the players. Let's talk about Kylian Mbappe and whether we see him or not, Jules. But the fact that Alonso's gone, has there been any word from his camp on the dismissal of Xabi Alonso?
No, only what we saw on social media from Kylian. And again, I know there was this incident after the Supercopa final on ESPN that we saw where Xabi Alonso wanted the players to do the Guard of Honor for Barcelona on their way to their trophy and their medals. And Kylian and Rodrigo was like, no, we're not going. And I think it was more the fact that they didn't want, it was not that Xabi Alonso was asking, it was the fact that they didn't want to do it. It could have been anyone asking, they would not have not gone. But it was not a good look, which I think kind of summed up quite well the Xabi Alonso 7 months at the club. But he was happy to work with him. He did really well under him this season, incredible, really, in terms of responsibilities within the team, in terms of the momentum that he got, in terms of the goals that he scored. Now it's different. There's this knee injury that has been really bothering him because he still feels a bit of pain. And remember, the club flew him to Saudi to play 15 minutes and touched the ball 8 times in that Supercopa final, which was in itself quite crazy when you think about it now with a bit of hindsight, because he was clearly not fit. Now it's a few days later, didn't play against Albacete, obviously, and I think ideally he would pass on the game tomorrow and probably be ready for Monaco, and even if not Monaco, because again, Real Madrid should beat Monaco without Mbappe, the league game after that, but the situation is so bad that the club, like I said earlier, and Arbeloa are pushing for him. not just to play against Monaco, but also to play tomorrow. So he's in the squads. I guess there'll probably be another test tomorrow, but the truth is he doesn't feel 100%. And for me, you should not play him if he's not 100%. For a game like this, again, if it was Barca, if it was a Atletico, a big Champions League game, okay, maybe it's a bit different. But Levante at home, for everything that we've just said, me and Ali, I don't think you should play him when he's not 100%.
In terms of managers, Jules, and speaking from the Mbappe angle of things here, obviously we've seen Ancelotti, and in the end it hasn't worked out with Ancelotti this time around. We've seen Xabi Alonso come, and that hasn't worked out. What type of manager is going to be best for Mbappe here at Real Madrid?
I don't know, you can't just pick your manager just on one player, right? But it's true that the Luis Enrique PSG type of manager didn't really work with Kylian. Remember this incredible scene that you can see on the Luis Enrique documentary where Luis Enrique is saying, listen, I need you to defend. Your idol was, one of your idols was Michael Jordan. Why was Jordan the greatest ever? Not just for all the points he scored, but for the way he was defending, one of the greatest defenders in basketball history. I need you to be like that, and cojones and all those kind of words, and that didn't work. Then the Carlo Ancelotti chilled, hey, I love you, come here, my son, do what you want. Didn't work either. Then we go to Xabi Alonso, who's, hey, I need you to be structured. I want you to watch this video analysis. I want you to do this and that. And it's not great from a team point of view, again. So when I hear that they want Jurgen Klopp and that Klopp is the dream, I'm like, really? Why would you go there again? Because Klopp is a dogmatic. Klopp won't settle for, yeah, let them do what they want. I don't really care. I'm here for the vibes. This is not Klopp for you. So I'm not really sure why they're so keen on Klopp, apart from the fact that he's one of the biggest names and one of the top managers for the last 25 years or so. So I'm not really sure where to go. But what's for sure is that if they want another Ancelotti or another Zidane, we don't really make those anymore. They're not that available, So I think it's the next one, especially if Arbeloa doesn't work out, I think it's very difficult for them to find the right one.
Translate Jules' Spanish there, Ali. Not tonight.
No, please.
But what I would like you to do is tell me which name you like on that list. Or which name you think would be a good fit on that list.
Well, I think if this is what you're giving me, okay. Enzo Maresca is not part of the conversation. I don't think Thomas Tuchel is part of the conversation. No chance. Mourinho, Nagelsmann, no chance, unless they want to copy the German vibe that you got going on with Hansi Flick and Barcelona. Andoni Iraola, I think it would be a big leap. And Zidane, it's rumored to be taking over France after the World Cup. So
leaves one.
He leaves one, and it's one that Jules doesn't think all that much about. But it feels like it. If you're making a splash, and Real Madrid is a big splash sort of club, it doesn't feel Arbeloa is a big splash. It feels like Jurgen Klopp is a big splash. And so while we're asking the question from the perspective of Mbappe, it's like, well, one manager would fit Mbappe. Maybe at some point we ask the question as to, from the perspective of the manager, hey, how come this guy doesn't seem to be, or the managers don't seem to be successful in getting him to do what they want him to do? That Luis Enrique that did what he was able to do with PSG couldn't get through to Mbappe. That Ancelotti said, I'm not even going to deal with it, bro. You do whatever you want, dude. Hey, I'm too old to be dealing with this nonsense and begging you to go and run here and run there. So then comes Xabi Alonso and says, I actually need you to do this, and it's working for him. It's working for him. He's scoring goals. And so you see the evidence, and so I would follow that path a whole lot more than I would any other path if it comes to Kylian Mbappe. And if Jurgen Klopp can give you the Xabi Alonso structure, but the personality of Jurgen Klopp, maybe that's where we got the difference. That's when we bridge that gap, and he can get through to Mbappe, and just as important, get through to Vini. And man, can you get this team excited to be around each other, which we haven't seen for a while. That's where I line on Jurgen Klopp, particularly if that's the list that you're providing.
Yes, okay. Well, we'll definitely see how this all works out. But first of all, this weekend, it is Real Madrid up against Levante, bright and early. Our coverage will begin at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and Ali and I will be with you.
With me bed.
So happy to bring it to you.
Well, you'll be watching us, right?
You'll be watching us, won't you, Stevie? Moving on to talk about the Africa Cup of Nations final. There we go. Nadem and Jules are back with us. We know it is Senegal against Morocco. We want to get your thoughts, guys, on what you're looking forward to and what your expectations of the final are. Let me start with you, Nadem.
Interesting. West Africa versus North. You know, this is the sort of rivalry that was going on in the semi-finals as well. And do you know what? It's going to be so tough for Senegal with Morocco being at home, the passion, the joy, and obviously they've not won it for a long time. But the fact is, you know, they seem very, very capable. You look at the youth systems within Morocco as well; they've been successful in recent years. So it's going to be interesting to see, can Senegal sort of handle that pressure. I thought Senegal in their semi-final, they had a lot of the backing of the crowd there. You could hear their fans in the stadium. But I think it'd be a very, very different case on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I agree with Nathan in terms of Senegal certainly having been the most consistent over the last 10 years. Certainly this Sadio Mane generation has been outstanding in pretty much every tournament that they've played in, really, especially AFCON. So you can see their strength. They've got so much depth as well in their squad, even if Koulibaly will miss the final, which is a huge loss for them. And Mamadou Sarr, who's much younger, obviously, who's one day is hoping to be like Koulibaly. He's not Koulibaly right now. So that could also be a big thing here. But I would go for Morocco. I think I looked it up. In the 7 finals that a host have played in AFCON, 6 of them they've won the host. I think it's very difficult to be your host in the final. And Morocco has this incredible momentum under Walid Regragui. I think it's 39 home games in a row unbeaten in competition games. They've got that solidity. They've got the backing from the crowd, of course. They're the best defense in the tournament. And they've got Brahim Diaz, who, didn't score in the semi-final, but has scored in every single game before that, who's been the player of the tournament so far. So I'm just not sure what happened to Nigeria in the semi-final. And I thought it was harsh for you to involve Nathan in this final preview, because I think he was, until this morning, still crying about what happened to the Super Eagles.
Hello and welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. I've got lots of different questions for lots of different things, so let me just check I've got the right ones for you guys. Julia Laurent and Nadim Anua are joining us
Do you
today.
need me to go get the questions or not?
Maybe, yes.
Okay, change your pace, baby. Change your pace. Speed. Speed. They're not here.
They're not here. All right. Okay, I have got them here. I was just testing.
Oh, all right. Change your pace.
I just tested
Speed,
your
baby.
alert. I've got them. Don't worry, they're
You
here.
didn't notice it? I was quick.
He was quick. He was pacey. All right, first question from the Norwegian Racing Fish. Madrid legends have often been quoted as saying no one is above the club. Has Perez slowly eroded this and placed himself above the club, leading to the issues they're facing today, Ale? This seems different than the original Galactico problems faced earlier in his tenure.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is accurate. This is no different. In fact, I would argue that this is not worse than when they had the Galactico players and were not getting results then. See, we think of Real Madrid and all their success. It didn't happen during the Galactico era. Of course, some people are going to point the finger at the Champions League that they won against Leverkusen and the goal by Zidane, and that's the one moment in time. But when you go year by year by year, as Barcelona was building what essentially became a machine and an empire, Real Madrid were dwindling and going in the wrong direction. And it wasn't until the arrival of Jose Mourinho that he understood, yeah, what Barcelona got going on here seems to be unstoppable. If we want to play toe-to-toe with this team, we're going to have to dirty this whole thing up. And we're going to have to mess this up entirely and build something different. So Real Madrid has had, the point being that Real Madrid has had these moments in their history in which there is very little patience with the manager. The players seem to have all the power. And that, I think, was confirmed here. The moment they decided to let go Xabi Alonso, they're essentially saying the players are the ones that have the power and have the responsibility. And so again, I repeat, as I said on the show, it's now on the players. The guy that they didn't want is not here anymore. It's now on the players to prove their worth.
What do you think, Jules?
Yeah, I agree with Ali. I think Real Madrid are a unique club, really, when you think about it. And I understand this, there's no player above the club, right? But if there's one club where player power is at the strongest, it's this one. And again, we go back to this, but not just Xabi Alonso. For years and years, like Rafael Benitez was not a bad coach. Players didn't like him, 6 months out. Xabi Alonso, we don't like you, too many video analysis, too much this, too much rigidity, out. It's just it's as simple as that. And they are the biggest club in the world. They're the most successful. So if you're Florentino Perez and you've been here before and you've always managed to go back to winning ways and win again, why would you change? You don't need to. So I think they're going to go again. And he's the most powerful president in club football. And his players are the ones with the most power too. And that's the way it is.
Stevie, it looks like Guehi is heading to City. What could possibly be the reason Liverpool has sat this one out after having him almost locked in last summer?
I don't think this has got to do with Liverpool. I think this has got to do with Guehi. If you're Guehi, City or Liverpool, you go to City. I think anybody in his position right now, if they want to move in this window and you have a choice, it's going to be City. I think Liverpool realised that they weren't going to get him, which is why there has been an awful lot of noise coming from Liverpool. So I think it's more to do with Guehi than anything else.
I bet you're not too upset with how it played out, are you, Nadem?
No, I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite happy, yeah. I think early in the season, obviously, the talk was, he could have gone to Liverpool and that would have been a great signing. But my only wonder there was, to be fair, it kind of falls into Stevie's point, was I thought, is he going to play instead of Konate? Is he going to play instead of Van Dijk? I'm not sure. But as he arrives at City right now, they've got Kushnerov and Max Allen who got recalled from a loan. So these aren't two of their starting centre-halves. So Guehi can basically, leave one club playing week in, week out and arrive at a new club playing week in, week out, but have added games in terms of playing Champions League and be in the late stages of some other competitions as well. So, yeah, I am quite happy with that. I think he's a really, really good player and I think he can go to the next level as well.
Ale, will United learn or not from Ole Gunnar and offer Carrick a full-time role if results drastically improve? Who's your favourite for the United manager role? Lots of coaches available this summer after the World Cup.
Well, these are multiple questions.
You can do it.
I hate to answer this different question with a similar package of an answer, and that is, while we focus on Ruben Amorim, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick, and you can go on and on, Darren Fletcher if you want to, players, in the end, and I think those of us that were fortunate enough to have played professionally know that, or would appreciate if the responsibility was actually on the players. So at some point, Manchester United, in order for them to make coaching decisions and give the power to, say, Michael Carrick, then the players have to show something different than what they have shown so far, and do so consistently, not in moments, not once every 3 weeks, but week in and week out. Until they do that, then this coaching carousel will continue. And so while I can answer the question, yeah, they'll back Michael Carrick, it depends on results. It's always dependent on results, and it will always be dependent on results. And it also depends on who becomes available after the World Cup. A big name comes around, you may think that he has a different plan, it gives you a different profile, elevates your profile as a club, elevates the amount of excitement that there is around the club because the results are not doing enough for you, then you make that decision. So there's so many layers to this question, but it goes back to something very basic. Unless you have the players, you're not going to achieve the things that you want to achieve.
Okay. Jules, do you see Robertson staying at Liverpool beyond this season? There's two parts to this question. Let's start there.
That's a good question. I think the question is more, is he happy with the game time that he has now? You would assume that by next season, Kerkez would have got better, or certainly would have finally got to the level that you have to be to play for Liverpool week in and week out, which probably would mean just the backup role for Robertson, even less game time, and he might not want that, and he might decide, you know what, I still want to enjoy the last few years of my career, go somewhere else where I will play, even if it's not the level of Liverpool. If you're Liverpool and he's happy to stay and be the backup, you keep him. 100%, he's a great guy to have in the dressing room, he's won everything with you, he's been part of this great generation and the club, he's got so much experience. if he plays now and again, he's still good enough, obviously, to be there. I don't think he's good enough anymore to play every 3 days. I don't think his body can probably take it anymore. But yeah, I would keep him. If he's happy with the conditions, and those are the conditions, I would keep him for sure.
And the next part is, Stevie, would you like to see him stay, or do you think it's time to move on?
No, I'm with Jules. It'd be great if he's content to play a bit part, then he's the perfect guy to be able to bring on for any manager. However, I don't see how that's possible, because quite frankly, I don't see how Kerkez gets better. I honestly don't, and I don't see Liverpool taking 10 million to get rid of him. So for me, next season Kerkez is going to be the backup, and Liverpool look as though they're going to have to sign a left back, which means that Robertson is pushed back another slot, which means he would go. But listen, if somebody wants to come in and give a silly offer for Kerkez, and Liverpool sign another left back and Robertson stays, that's the ideal scenario for me. But I don't see it happening. Nobody's going to go and buy Kerkez. Liverpool ain't going to take such a big hit, having spent the money on him they did. And I don't see Kerkez reaching the level that he's supposed to. I just don't see it.
You're in the group chat with Virgil van Dijk.
Just don't see it.
Stevie, if Liverpool managed to win the FA Cup this season and finish in the top 4, given the expectations entering the season, would you call that a success or failure?
Right now, it's a success. Obviously, before a ball's kicked, you're thinking, well, if we don't win the title, we want to be pushing whoever does. And the FA Cup really is a nice little trophy to have. But considering what's happened so far, I would take that. I'd take your hand off right now.
Do you agree, Nathan? Do you think that's a success for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it has to be seen that way. Yeah, start of the season, absolutely not. But for now, 100%. The position that they're currently in, seeing some of the players out of form, sort of wondering about new signings like Kerkez, Frimpong's not hit the ground running, and a few others. I think if you're going to be making a trip down to Wembley to lift the trophy and you're still in the Champions League for next year, yes, you didn't retain your title, but I'd say that's a springboard for the next season.
Any centre-back you wish to join Liverpool? That's available, of course.
Okay. Listen, there are not too many world-class centre-backs kicking around. Honestly, I can't think of too many. I really can't. And as I always say, Liverpool have a department, as other clubs do. It's called the scouting department, and they better have a list of who could be good enough and who can we get. They're going to have to sign some. They're going to have to sign 2 centre backs, and are they going to be able to sign 2 centre backs with the capability of a Van Dijk? That probably isn't going to happen, but they're going to have to sign some players at that position. And so whoever is in charge of recruitment is going to have to earn his money by bringing in a couple of players who are going to be able to do a job. We're not expecting them to be world class, but do a job until you can find the next Gahey or the next Van Dijk.
And not let them go.
And not let them go.
Where are the top line center backs? Huh? Where have they gone? It seems like there is a shortage of players in that position. And I have a very capable defender next to me, and a more than capable center back in Nathan. Well, where have those players gone? Because it used to be that center backs were sort of position that you would have plenty of, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I'm just saying, at the high level, anyways. You think of a club like Bayern Munich, and they're blessed to have Kim, Ta, Upamecano, that they can rotate those guys, that Kim is sort of coming off the bench whenever he gets to play. But I can't think of many clubs at the very top end of European football that have a rotation or 3 or 4 centre backs that they can play.
So Nedum's the closest one of all of us that recently stopped playing. And I know in my time that teams worked on defence. Both the first team, the reserve team, academy kids, the whole thing. do teams work on defence as much as they should or do? Nedum? I mean, what's going on at Man City's academy? Do they work on defence, or is it all? Well, it's all about passing the ball. It's all about going forward. It's all about this and that. Never mind the basics of how you defend. That's the impression you get, because what other reason is it why we're sitting here and we can't come up with anybody?
Yeah, Nedum, can you answer that?
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. Let me answer for this generation of players. No, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's just you've just been caught in a moment where we don't have a list of all these players. But I'm sure if somebody presented you one, you'd be like, yeah, that's a good signing. That'd be a good signing, and so on. I think the fact is, like, yes, we're talking about world-class players in terms of replacing a Van Dijk long-term and so on. And ultimately, if everyone was of that same standard, you wouldn't think that they were that good. So I think he has to stand out for a reason. Those types of players should be at a premium. They shouldn't be seen very often. And everyone else below it, you know, they can still be national level standard, can be Premier League standard, but they won't stand out the same way that, say, a Van Dijk and other people will do. So I'm at peace with it. And, you know, if you want to see, like, good quality defending, for example, you know, watch Sunderland, look at Alderete, look at Mukiele, look at people like that. I think they've got probably the 3rd or 4th best defensive record in the league, but none of those guys are essentially world class. But then also, they've only scored 21 goals, I think, in 21 games. So I guess it's a bit of a trade-off. Do you want your defenders to be really robust and nothing more? Or do you want some attack as well, and maybe the defenders aren't necessarily up to the standard that you'd hope for?
Oh, man, if the answer is go watch Sunderland, then I don't know. And I think I'm out. I think I'm out, guys.
Is Mbappe kryptonite to the Champions League?
Oh, boy.
Kryptonite for the dressing room.
Is kryptonite like? Does that mean that he doesn't go with the Champions League? Is that what that means?
Yeah, it's a weakness.
Well, let me explain kryptonite to you, Jules. Yeah. See, there was this character, Superman.
Go on.
And kryptonite would hurt Superman. So is Mbappe is a kryptonite for the Champions League and whatever team he's playing for.
I get you. Yeah. I mean, he reached a final that he could have won, to be fair, for us against Bayern Munich, and missed that massive chance at 0-0, to be honest, to be fair. He had a semi-finals where it didn't work out for him, whether it was Dortmund or City. The irony, as we mentioned many times last season, is that the day he leaves PSG, they go and win the Champions League in the most incredible way. So I don't think it's as simple as saying that, obviously, but he's 27 now, and I think by now he would have thought that he would have won it already, which is the big objective of his career. And he also thought going to Real Madrid, who win them all the time, that it would also be easier to win the Champions League, and it's not proven to be the case. So I guess they will have another go this season, but if you look at them compared to the top teams in Europe, I don't think there's a match. I don't think they can go and win the Champions League if nothing changes. So yeah, you could say that for now. He certainly has escaped him massively.
I do have a question for Jules. So when he was referring to PSG and the chances that PSG had to win Champions League with Mbappe, he referred to PSG for us, right? And so I imagine he'd do the same thing if Arsenal are about to win Champions League. He said us and we. If Real Madrid go on to win it with Mbappe, he says us and we again?
Nah.
No.
That's where you draw the line.
I'm super happy for him and for the family. Yeah, I drew the line there, Ali.
I feel like he wouldn't even say we on Arsenal, even though he likes that. I think the we is reserved for the French team.
Seems we're asking questions of Jules.
Yeah, I agree.
Jules, you know when we're doing the show and you were saying about Mbappe, well, he was just doing this about not doing the Guard of Honour, and he just didn't really want to do it. Any manager who lets a player do that and completely overrides them. No wonder Xabi Alonso's not there. Xabi Alonso, every manager I've ever had, would have been straight over and grabbed Mbappe by the ears and pulled him over. Pulled him over. There's not one of them would not have gone over to him, Rodrigo, or anybody else who decided that they didn't want to do it, and would have dragged them across there. That's your kryptonite with Mbappe.
I know.
And he's got the cheek, by the way. You know, we asked the question when had anybody like put anything on social media. Oh, and guess what? Mbappe, he's on social media going, oh, really sorry, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, how about just do as you're told? Never mind hypocrite. I'm really sorry, and I really enjoyed being under you.
What if he was a messenger saying the others don't want to do it, boss?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
At least Vinny didn't go sucking up and put something saying, "Oh, I really enjoyed having you as a manager." And then you've got Mbappe getting all his troops saying, "No, we're not doing that. We're not doing what the manager says. Come over here." And then he starts trying to suck up.
Oh, man. you
Turns
let it
out
out,
that
Stevie.
Mbappe is kryptonite for Stevie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd react
How
too well.
about
Jules, if he pulled
Mbappe
by the
realises
ear.
to be a team player he might win the Champions League?
All right.
Does an extra wee bit of closing down, maybe that would help.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Man.
So you think Mbappe was the problem here?
Well, he seems to.
Or
it
his
seems to
ears,
be.
for that matter.
He seems to be.
All right. That's all we've got time for.
Oh,
Stevie
man.
needs to vent.
I know.
We let him get it off his
Kryptonite.
chest. We should probably stop
Can I get
there.
it for me?
Quit while we're ahead. He's also deciding what movie to watch tonight. We gave him about 35 options. He wasn't happy with any of them. So if you've got any options,
Aye.
let us know over on
Put
it.
it on the chat,
on
Nato
the
and
postcard.
Jules.
Yes, put it on the chat later.
Yeah.
But just
Do
don't
people
none
send
of us are in.
postcards anymore? Write it on a postcard.
Carry a pigeon. All right, thank you so much for sending in your questions. We'll be back again tomorrow on ESPN FC.